So let's test your might as we enter into the realm of Outworld and take a look at what's possibly still one of the best video game to film adaptations out there. This is Mortal Kombat. For the past 9 generations, the realm of Earth has lost the ancient tournament known as Mortal Kombat. And if the sorcerer Shang Tsung can orchestrate one more victory, the dark realm of Outworld will be able to conquer our world. With the murder of his brother at the hands of Shang Tsung, the determined warrior of Liu Kang enters a tournament seeking revenge. But the god of thunder and lightning, Lord Raiden, must guide him along with discredited action movie star Johnny Cage and special ops agent Sonya Blade to hopeful victory. Facing down the dark forces of Outworld, these heroes will be tested against deadly foes. But it'll be Liu Kang who must learn to put his vengeance aside in order to accept his destiny and defeat his ultimate foe. So 1992 saw the release into arcades of what would become one of the most widely popular video game franchises in the form of Midway Games' Mortal Kombat, which would end up hitting 16-bit home consoles throughout the subsequent years around the entire world, and getting a sequel produced in 1993, making it pretty much a no-brainer for someone to license and eventually produce a film adaptation of this video game. It was really producer Lawrence Kasanoff of Threshold Entertainment who really saw the potential of Mortal Kombat become a fresh, energetic type of action film, using all these supernatural, mystical elements tied in with some Hong Kong-style martial arts action injected into a very big blockbuster type of Hollywood type of action film. You saw all those different elements that could really put into this to give a nice sort of fresh, cool spin on the big blockbuster type of films you could see at this point in time, and teamed up with distributors New Line Cinema and produced on a budget of $18 million, released on August 18th, 1995. Mortal Kombat ended up grossing $122 million at the worldwide box office, making it a very smash success and very much a film that did launch the career of director Paul William Scott Anderson, who has gone on to make some very trashy, very low-grade B-movies, the whole stuff with the Resident Evil franchise, a lot of stuff that people don't hold in high regard. But with Mortal Kombat, there's a lot of really good elements here that a lot of these video game to film adaptations don't end up hitting very well. Some make a lot of box office, but not terribly well received, and a lot of the fans of the franchises don't tend to view them in very good light. But somehow, this film of Mortal Kombat has kind of, in a way, stood the test of time in terms of fan reactions to it. A lot of people who love Mortal Kombat from the early years saw this film was like, they kind of really got it right in a lot of cases, because for one thing, I feel like they really do kind of respect the source material of Mortal Kombat, taking story and character elements from the first 2 games that had already been released prior to the film's production. So they took a little stuff from here and there and kind of made an all-over sort of compilation of ideas and character traits and different story elements from the games to really kind of give you the greatest hits of what they could do with what had been laid out for Midway Games at this point in time, to really just give you a really good story here that just comes off in a very good type of fashion, where the tone of the film is something I really like a whole lot, because it has the perfect balance of knowing when to inject a little humor and levity in the film, but also when to have that respect for the characters and deliver the dramatic storylines, because the whole film starts out on a pretty dark note. They're seeing Shang Tsung kill Chan, and then you have Liu Kang waking up from this dream that's haunting him, kickstarting his storyline throughout the entire film, and all the characters have these nice little arcs that thread through everything, but you just get these nice moments where you can just have the charisma and the chemistry of the actors and the characters shine through so much, to have them be engaging characters, to enjoy them, to be entertained by them, and to root for them as they go through these conflicts and struggles throughout the entire film. So it's like, it's a nice balance of everything. I just like how it just hits that so absolutely perfectly, because you could go really kind of cheesy and go over the top, really campy with stuff, like the Street Fighter movie kind of did, or you could go too dark, which really wasn't the trend at the time, but you could also see something like today just going too dark or too intense, which was kind of saying they were kind of avoiding. They didn't want to go ahead and, like the video games were extremely violent for the time, or very notorious for it throughout the media and everything, but they didn't really want to go for something that was heavily gory. They didn't want to go for something that would seem more horror movie-esque, with people getting skulls and spines ripped out like it's a Predator film or something like that. They really wanted to focus so much on the action and the characters and all these different things that really could just make it a little bit more unique unto itself for the audiences, and kind of go ahead and get that PG-13 audience that was playing all the video games and everything. But it's nice that they kind of went that way in a certain way. A lot of people do have a criticism of not being a gory film or whatnot like the video games, but with the tone that they strike, I think it just works so well. If they went too violent, you would kind of have a little bit too much of a dark edge to things. They kind of lose something in the mix there, possibly. But it's such a nice little thing how they balance the tone throughout the entire film and just allow all these things to go forward. And it's such a nice thing with how they really approach the casting of the film, where they wanted to find either martial arts they could kind of train a little bit more in acting, or get actors to train into martial arts. And thankfully they had a nice little mix of different characters and actors here to really just give such life to this film, starting off with Shou, who had already been very much a seasoned actor in the Hong Kong cinema, doing a lot of martial arts stuff in those films, and coming over to America for his first English language film. Did have to kind of learn a little bit of English to kind of really kind of get the hold of everything, so they worked very rigorously with him and a language coach and everything to really kind of get him prepped to be able to actually act in the film. And I do think Shou, one, he's a fantastic martial artist. He's fantastic, awesome type of stuff, because he even worked as a fight choreographer for the reshoots of the film, which I'm going to get to a lot later, but proves that he had a lot of talent in that realm too. But as an actor, he's good in this film, that he, as the lead of this film, as Liu Kang, he has this nice solid core of conflict that you really need to have with this character who's grappling with the guilt of the death of his brother and the vengeance he's seeking against Shang Tsung. And so he's got all these nice little internal conflicts that he has to overcome throughout the course of the film. And Shou, at this point in time, is not the most nuanced actor, but he hits the beats you really need to connect with this character, because he's got all the charisma down pat. When you got scenes between Liu Kang and Johnny Cage and everything, they're fantastically funny stuff. They get all the right beats, all the really fun human type of moments in the film. You really get to connect with this character because there's really solid direction here, and they got an actor who's really up to the task of just pushing himself a little bit further to really kind of connect with the audience as a sympathetic and relatable type of character who is, again, struggling with this type of stuff inside, and has to come to the point where he has to rise up as a hero by the end of the film to kind of realize that he has to take fate and destiny into his own hands and realize everyone is responsible for their own fates overall. It's a nicely written role, and Shou really just fits into it so very well here. And you get Linden Ashby here as the character of Johnny Cage, right? He's got all the best one-liners. All the little quips in the film are just so much from his cocky, sort of wise-ass type of character of Johnny Cage, who he plays wonderfully. All these actors have so much good charisma, and he has such a perfect comedic timing with all these beats, and just so much into it, so much into the thick of this character and everything, to just kind of, again, another little character art where he's this character of Johnny Cage, this Hollywood action star that people think he's a fake. He's not a real martial artist or whatnot. He's in movies. He's not to be taken seriously. So another little internal type of thing that he has to prove something to himself and everyone else around him that he is the genuine article, and you just see the cockiness, the swagger a little bit, the quippiness, and all this type of stuff just continues to be part of his overall character to just make him such an entertaining and endearing character overall, I really, really love what he does with Johnny Cage. I think that's one of the best characters in the film because he is so memorable with all the dialogue they give him. And a couple of different people were actually considered for Johnny Cage. Brandon Lee was considered before The Crow production ended his life and everything, and they're thinking about Jean-Claude Van Damme because he was the model of the character of Johnny Cage in the video game, but Jean-Claude decided to go off and do Street Fighter instead, which I think is kind of a good thing, because if you cast Jean-Claude in the supporting role, who's the bigger star going into the film, and then you have Robin Shou here trying to be the lead, but you got this guy who's the bigger star in the film, I think it really would have been off balance in the makeup of the film. And Bridget Wilson does a really nice job as Sonya Blade here, who apparently they originally were going to have the character portrayed by Cameron Diaz, but apparently she broke her wrist before the film actually started filming, so she had it apart. And then comes Bridget Wilson, who had previously done Last Action Hero, and does a really nice job with Sonya here with not as much material to work with. She's kind of just this character who is generally just a tough type of character who's really kind of pushes other people away and not accepting of help throughout the whole film, up until like the very end where she begins to trust and have a little faith in other people to come around and be there next to her and everything. So not as much material as Johnny or Liu Kang or whatnot, but she gets nice beats in the film. She plays her role really solidly, and apparently did all her own action beats. She did all the fighting herself, no stunt double whatsoever, so good on her for being that physically game to really punch into all that type of stuff really nicely. But we got Christopher Lambert here. Well, everyone knows my stuff. I love Christopher Lambert. Highlander, Mean Guns, Gunman, anything you have, throw it at me. I enjoy Christopher Lambert, and he is wonderful in this film as Raiden. It's kind of an interesting thing because in Highlander he's playing the student and everything. Now he's kind of playing the mentor role. He's playing that character about 10 years later here and doing such a wonderful job at it, adding all his natural type of wit and charisma and all these different things that just makes Christopher Lambert one of the most charming actors out there. You absolutely love this guy for everything that he does. And as Lord Raiden, I like the kind of gravelly voice that he kind of gives the character too, that just adds a little bit more of an undercurrent to the character at certain points in time, gives him a little bit more presence overall. I just like that quality about it, and just like another character who just balances these different things, that he has moments where he's a little bit more serious and dramatic, a little bit more stern or whatnot, a little more earnest, but he has fantastic moments where he just perfectly wit and just perfectly Lambert type of stuff, where they just add that little sparkle in his eye, and literally and figuratively, to just make him such an endearing, fun character, and sorely missed from the damn sequel, which is something I'll get to later. But the fact of the matter is, having him as Raiden was just a wonderful piece of casting here. That a guy who was about a little over 10 years established as a really nice actor who could do a couple little different things, add the charm, the charisma that you need into the character, and just add a unique element, because you might have another actor go in there and just play it very, very straight, but Lambert just adds in all these different things to just make him such an endearing, fun character. I love Christopher Lambert. Throw him in anything you want. I will thoroughly enjoy what he has to bring to something. And it's very interesting here with the actor of Trevor Goddard, who sadly passed away in 2003, was an English actor but regularly put on an Australian accent so he would stand out more against casting directors and gain more roles because of it. And he had such an impact on the character of Kano here that they changed what was originally a Japanese-born American character into an Australian character, because he made such an impact with his performance of a sleazy, salacious, just absolutely no redeeming factors at all character, that it actually changed the canon of the video games themselves. And he soaks himself fully into the fiber of this character, actually relishing every moment of this character who just has no dignity whatsoever. He's this underworld crime boss who just is almost like subhuman next to some of these other characters who, even like against Shang Tsung, who's partnered up in this whole film. He just seems like he's totally a means to end in this film, getting Sonya enticed over into Shang Tsung's grasp and everything, and just everything he does, every second he gets on screen is so absolutely deliciously entertaining. I loved what he did with his character, and sad that he passed away in 2003, because I've seen him in a couple other films they did a pretty equally nice job at too, so sad to hear that. But the fact of the matter is, he's got a really good character that did impact an entire franchise overall, so that's something to add to his legacy in general. But the guy who is absolutely fantastic in this film is Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung, because every time I see him in anything at all, a television episode, a film, anything at all, I know I'm in for something that is a very solid, reliable quality, because he delivers it every single time. Every time I see him in anything at all, he is such a remarkably good actor, and I could not see anyone else nailing Shang Tsung as well as he did, because even when they did a few years ago Mortal Kombat Legacy, this little web series whatnot, they actually brought him back to play Shang Tsung all over again, and you can see why in this film, because again, he's such a well-seasoned actor at this point in time that he knows how to play things with nuance and subtlety and everything. And I just love how he plays Shang Tsung as this guy with sophistication and elegance and a gracefulness to him. He's very soft-spoken in so many instances that he knows how to work on the film canvas to just have a look or a movement or a little something here or there. Just project something more onto the screen. Just how they photograph him and how he works the scene. I just love every moment he has on the film, because he's such an intelligent character who's scheming things out right from the beginning of the film, because he knows he has to lure the best fighters in the world for this tournament to take place, to have it be what it needs to be. But he has that scheme in the back of his head that, yeah, he's going to get these best fighters, but he's going to lure this Sonya Blade into the whole mix of everything and really make her the one that he's going to focus on to kind of cheat his way around things in a slight bit, kind of take the a little bit lesser route to success in this thing, because he's got that thing in the back of his head that generations ago he's the one who lost against Kung Lao, and he's got to kind of redeem himself here. He's got this thing that he's the one who lost to the last fighter that would have gotten them to conquer the entire realm of Earth, and now he's right at that same point again where he doesn't want to lose again, so he wants to take the easiest route possible. So he's got this thing right from the beginning of the film where he's just an intelligent, cunning type of villain who just, like, every time he plays a scene, he plays it so subtle and so nice, and just, he's not overt about anything. And even when there's moments where, like, you got him and Kano and Goro in a scene, you can still see there is a sense of desperation there, that you can't overestimate things, you can't get too overconfident things. So it's like this character is written so very well and portrayed by such a good actor here, that you got all these little qualities that they're still in the back of his mind. Things could still go wrong if they make one little misstep here or there. So it's like a nice character, just excellently portrayed here. I just love every little thing he does going into this performance, and he carries it all the way through. I love the fact that, again, he also had a martial arts background, so when you get into the climax of the film, where it's him and Liu Kang throwing down, you can see it's actually Robin Shou and Cary Tagawa there really hitting those hits and really doing all the choreography right there on screen, nothing to hide. It's so nice that you get this guy again. He looks in fantastic shape too, so it's like he's no slouch whatsoever. When you see those guns he breaks out at the end of the film, he's well put together in a physical sense. So his physical ability is very much matched by his talent as an actor here. So he brought a full package for this character of Shang Tsung, who they, even because they cast such a good actor and really wanted him for the role, didn't want to do the heavy old age makeup like Shang Tsung was in the first video game or whatnot. They really wanted to have a younger version of him, so it kind of plays in the film that the souls that he takes preserves his youth in a certain way. So when he dies, all those souls go out and he just becomes this withered corpse or whatnot. It's nice little things here that they also add into that lore of the character overall, that all these little things just come together and create such good characters in general in this film.
I really like the cast they put together. And again, just adding from the lore of the source material, adding all these little things into the background. Some of them not so overtly explained, but you can just pick up on them. They're into the fiber of the film. That some stuff goes unspoken, but you can still see it play out on screen like that. So you got all this stuff where Kung Lao beat Shang Tsung, and now Liu Kang is the son of Kung Lao. So there's all these little things kind of tied together. A really nice package in general here. And the creation of the world of Mortal Kombat really comes down to some really nice production design. Again, using some Asian influences to kind of give a sense of culture and mysticism to it, but adding some kind of darker, creepier elements to give that undercurrent of evil overtaking these realms that emanates out of Outworld and everything. Especially when you get to the wastelands of Outworld, which was actually shot at the steel mill used in the climax of Terminator 2, which has apparently since been demolished and everything. But they use so much of a scope in this film, especially shooting on location in Thailand to get that wonderful temple used for the Temple of Light and everything. It was a nice find, and all these sort of little secluded, out-of-the-way places that were not very easy to get to. They pretty much had to take boats to almost all of these locations out on the island, out in Thailand and everything. But the quality of what they got was a sense of scope for this film that it is just such a nicely shot film as well by John Leonetti, who sadly ended up being the director of the sequel. But as a cinematographer, he does some fantastic work, and what he does to shoot and light all this production design that adds so much value to the film, he adds so much on top of that just kind of almost seems like he worked overtime lighting a lot of these sets and shooting such fantastic imagery in this film. He has such a very good eye that there's some beautiful moments in this film where he uses such rich, moody colors in so many different places. And there's some moments where he even captures some beautiful sunsets, just like absolutely gorgeous type of stuff that just you're not entirely expecting to get that much quality out of this film, but he shoots this film so absolutely wonderful. I just love, again, the use of colors splashing everything around here, just giving it such a vibrant look overall, but also giving so many interesting, nice camera angles and just a little bit of cinematic movement that just give the film so much value in how it looks. This is such a nicely good looking film that he does such a good job and makes that production design just stand out so exquisitely well on screen. Did such a good job here, and just what kicks it up even further than that, because it's Mortal Kombat, goddammit. You gotta have very good fight scenes. This film, if it didn't have good fight scenes, no one would give a shit. It would not have been successful, but because they employed some really good choreographers and really focused on making sure that the action of the film felt like something that was very fresh to young audiences at the time, they really delivered a lot of good martial arts action in this film, and the cinematography in those sequences is really, really good. They use dynamic angles and just, again, the lighting of it all, especially when you get the ones that they actually did in the reshoots, choreographed by Shou, look absolutely fantastic. When they got Johnny Cage going up against Scorpion, which was originally supposed to end with the shadow kick from Johnny Cage in the forest, but they decided to extend that when it didn't seem like there was enough punch, enough really kind of amped up action sequences. They decided to go in reshoots, extend it out to where you're in that lair of Scorpion and everything, and that entire sequence was choreographed by Shou, and it is fantastic type of stuff. It's one of the two best sequences in the film. The other one was also choreographed by him when he takes on Reptile. It's wonderful type of stuff, and the dynamic camera angles they use and how they don't cut too much in the sequences. They do let shots play out a little bit here and there. They just allow things to kind of work and not allow the physicality of the scene to drive the intensity of it. You don't have to cut every 2 seconds or whatnot to make it seem like it's energetic. You've got the physicality on screen, and you just have to point the camera where you need to, move it and just frame it just right, and light everything so beautifully in these sequences to really just get the action that you need to for this film. That just everything just works out so well with these martial arts sequences, that they're so well shot, so well edited, and the choreography just absolutely top notch. And just when you got, again, Liu Kang and Reptile, that one's just slam bang kinetic action from wall to wall. I think just having Robin Shou's experience in martial arts, Hong Kong cinema, just added something extra to those sequences so much, because they're just so tight, so fast, and just so visceral in a certain way. They're one of the most crowd-pleasing ones in the film. I think they're so well executed, and if you take those out of the film, it would suffer a whole lot. There's just good action in this film that just shot so well, edited so well, and just generally overall conceived at a very high-quality type of level. It doesn't hold up so much like a Jackie Chan type of thing, where it's very, very rapid-fire type of stuff, but something that's very easily digestible by an American audience at the time. This is very good type of work overall. It really just delivered a lot of good stuff on very natural, genuine type of physicality, and just adding in so much good stuff in general with these fight sequences is such a good, solid mark for this film in general. But the one thing that definitely does not hold up over time with this film are the computer-generated visual effects, which are not of a very high-grade quality. Even for 1995, a lot of them just seem a little more than what they could afford at the time with, again, $18 million budget. When you're right off the heels of something like Jurassic Park, which had about somewhere around $80 million to work with, and Industrial Light and Magic. Again, this is split up between a lot of different production houses to do a lot of different stuff with not a whole ton of money. The technology just wasn't there, and the money wasn't there to make the high quality visual effects that they really wanted to do for this film. But there are some nice little digital matte paintings in the film that you might not even be aware of, that a lot of the long shots of the island are digitally enhanced type of stuff, where you don't need a lot of detail, you just need to convey the scope of it all, so they just extend the qualities of the island digitally in the film. And even the long shot where you see Johnny and Goro fighting on the cliff or whatnot, that long shot is all digital, there's no actual live action footage incorporated. So there are a few little moments here and there. I think the freeze effects with Sub-Zero, I think those hold up probably the best of any of the really intricate type of effects that they have in the film. They look very good, especially when he shatters that one guy at Shang Tsung's feet. I think that looks really nice. It doesn't quite hold up to today's standards of really high-end effects, but it's probably the best type of stuff that you get in the film. But you also got the animatronics to realize the character of Goro, where they could have gone, again, made him a digital effect. They could have maybe employed stop motion, but of those options, I think this was the most economical way to go, with probably the most advanced type of animatronic that had been made up to that point, where you got one guy in a suit with his arms in the lower arms of Goro, and then everything else above him on his shoulders is all animatronic type of stuff. And they did apparently do some digital touch-ups on Goro's lips to just try to make them a little bit more articulate at certain points in time. So they did employ a little bit more than what you could probably pick up on in the film in terms of digital effects. And Goro is the best they possibly could have done. He's still a little bit jerky here and there. And he's kind of teetering on the edge of it's good enough type of thing. So it's like it serves its purpose in the film well enough, and I think it just conveys the character in the best technological ends that they could have achieved at that time. I think the visual effects and the general physical effects of the film are of a very ambitious type of level, where in some cases they just didn't have the resources to really achieve the quality that they wanted to, because again, producer Lawrence Kasanoff wanted to try and dazzle audiences with a lot of visual effects work that you'd not seen before. But how people really responded to it in 1995, I don't know, but in subsequent years, it definitely has been one of the things that's like almost a textbook example of the 90s abuse of CGI exceeding the technology that was available at the time. So it's like, hasn't held up very well over time at all. And if you're just seeing the film for the first time 20 some odd years after the fact, it might be a very sore spot. But if you kind of grew up with this film, you kind of went through this film on whether it's theatrical or videotape or DVD or whatnot, just kind of lived with it all these years, you're just kind of used to the effects in the film, even when you have something like Reptile whatnot running around where he's got like no texture mapping on him really or anything. He's just kind of this smooth video gamey type of looking character. You just kind of accept it, because also again, if you have a film that hits all the other things really well, and maybe the visual effects aren't up to snuff for that, even if they're not up to snuff for the time or whatnot, you can still get a good film out of it. And that's what this film really does with Paul W.S. Anderson, whatever good type of qualities that he was bringing into this thing that he kind of lost somewhere later on in his career. He really just puts together a good film with, again, you got a producer who really has a nice solid vision for things. You got a nice young eager director who's really wants to make films for a young audience, young, energetic, fresh people to kind of digest something like this, which is a great mix of everything. You got this director who wants to do a film like this. You got a property that appeals exactly to that demographic. You got a producer who's right on board to get all these elements injected into this really cool, sleek type of film and everything, and you just cast the film so well and just have a focus on really just making all those martial arts sequences the best they possibly can. And then you got a story running through this whole thing that, again, has nice, solid source material to work from, that creates a very eclectic background to work off of, and you just get so many good elements. It just all comes together in a nice package. You got a good, solid piece of work here with good characters, good acting, solid fucking action, good fucking cinematography like hell. All the stuff is really well edited. Good production values overall in this film, that they got everything they really needed to make this film as nicely as they possibly could. And again, box office definitely spoke very well of it, and just like it's a really good film that I just really enjoy. That some people might not feel as strongly, but the fact of the matter is, I keep returning to this film all the time. It's just a fun, easy sit down, watch this film, be entertained, get all the humor, the action, all this type of stuff with the characters. Such a nicely good film, followed up by a dreadful fucking sequel. It's a fucking Mortal Kombat Annihilation is a dreadful fucking movie. Again, directed by the cinematographer who shot this film, and you got people departing the film all over the place. Linden Ashby would not return as Johnny Cage, so they kind of killed off his character in like the first 2 minutes. Christopher Lambert, he was attached to another film, so he couldn't come back. Might not come back anyway. You got Bidgette Wilson departing the film as well, so it's like all you got is like Robin Shou and the girl who portrays Katana coming back, and that's it. Everyone else is recast. You got fucking terrible. The CGI is even worse in the film because they use even like 10 times more of it. In the first Mortal Kombat, there were about 200 effect shots. They probably just went full bore in it and didn't improve the quality at all, and just really bad film. It's a bad fucking movie. Don't fucking watch it. I tried watching the trailer the other day. I couldn't get halfway through it. It was so fucking bad. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is terrible. This film is a nice, solid, good popcorn type of action film. You can get into it, enjoy, get sucked in with the characters, the visual style of it, the action delivers. They have a nice beat where it's like the entire first act does set up the characters, but once you get into the second act of the film, you just start having like sequence after sequence of one battle after another to just get you into that whole thing, and just like bounce back and forth between the character development, the story development, and then the action and everything. So it's like, it's so well structured, so well paced, and so well done in general that, again, visual effects be damned. If they suck, you got a good film here in general that holds up in all the other levels, in my opinion. But I would definitely like to hear what your opinions are of Mortal Kombat. And if you are fans of the video game, I'd just go ahead and start up some discussion about that as well. As a video gamer, I was very much Street Fighter 2, but in the movie, it's just Mortal Kombat for me, guys. So, thanks for watching. I love you coming out here and watching my stuff, and just hitting the like buttons, doing the subscribes, all the comments and everything. Just enjoy you guys being here, and I'll be back with some fantastic new stuff really, really soon. Some new reviews, some new commentaries, and we're getting kicked off into the summer movie season really soon. So guys, thanks for watching. As always, take care. Bye-bye.